Yeah.
What's the latest this hour? Where do things stand? Are there the votes with Democrats to get this through, to make this framework a law?
Yeah, even in all of our sprinting from Joe Manchin's car back to the Speaker's office and all throughout the halls of Congress, it's clear that there's the will to get this done, but it's really just a question at this point of time. Progressives have long felt that if this takes an extra few days or an extra few weeks, it's more important for them to be able to get as many of the policy priorities in as they possibly can. And now it feels like we've been here before in some ways, because they've come so close to voting and then had to pull back because progressives held the line. But I think what's so different about this moment is now we actually have a clear and transparent picture of what's actually in and what's actually out. Progressives have gone as far as to say they're good with what's actually in this bill. They just need assurances now from the key senators on the other side of this equation that they're not going to see a vote on this in the House and then get kicked to the curb when it actually comes time to vote on this larger social spending package. I think that's what makes this moment so different. And what one lawmaker said to me as they were leaving town on Thursday, when I asked them when this was going to get done, they just said good vibes for November. That seems like where they're at right now as a caucus.
Good vibes for November. I mean, well, it's been a wild sort of a few months for Joe Biden and for House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Yeah. I was really struck by the idea that while progressives said that they were supportive of this bill, they held up this vote on the bipartisan infrastructure plan, and they did so while House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, in a meeting with the president standing there, said, we need to give a vote of confidence to the president before he lands in Europe. He landed. There was no vote. What does that say about the power of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the power of all these other Democratic lawmakers?
Well, she has a progressive caucus now that is unified and ready to actually take a stand. But I think the difference in that meeting is Speaker Pelosi asked to have a vote, but President Biden, according to all of our sources who were in the room, didn't. And there's a difference between the speaker, who her caucus respects her, but it's not the president of the United States. Biden went in that room and said, trust me on this deal. He worked through the framework. Everyone who left that meeting who we talked to said it was clear he was dialed in on the specifics. But in terms of actually pressuring them for a vote, Biden has endorsed this strategy of linking these bills and allowing progressives to make sure that he gets the most transformational package possible. It behooves him and it behooves the White House that progressives are continuing to hold the line on this, because, again, almost every Democratic lawmaker that you talk to actually wants to pass both of these bills. Some are more passionate about the hard infrastructure pieces. Others are more passionate about the social spending. But by and large, they all would like to give a White House the win, because the policy here that passes is going to be the platform in the midterms. The more they get done, the better they can say, this is what you get from Democratic majorities.
And Ali, the key word that you said was a win. Aisha, President Biden absolutely wants a win. But he made this sort of political calculation to put out this framework without getting the explicit and direct support of Senator Manchin and Sinema, who names that now all Americans at this point probably know, because they were the key senators that were being chased by Ali and others, to get an understanding of where they are. What's the White House's thinking of why the president did it this way?
Well, it seems like the White House was ready to kind of put down a marker. There has been criticism of the president up until now, because people were saying you're going out and you're going to these states and talking about a bill, but we don't know what's in the bill. Like, what is going to be in this? And it's very hard to sell. I mean, obviously, President Biden believes in compromise, but it's very hard to sell, well, this is what we're able to get. You need to be able to sell. You're going to get universal pre-K. Your children are going to be able, you're going to get help with child care. You need to have like specific things that you're telling people, this is what we're going to deliver for you. And Build Back Better, it's a slogan, but it is not telling people what you're actually doing for them. And so I feel like they needed to put down a marker to say, this is what we're going to do, and so that they have something to actually sell to the American people. Because in addition to Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, they have to convince the American people that they are actually doing something for them.
Yeah, and Jonathan, in that critical meeting with House lawmakers before he left for Europe, the president said it's not a hyperbole to think that his presidency, as well as the majorities that Democrats have now, even though they're thin in the House and Senate, that they are riding on what happens in the next week. I wonder what you're hearing about what the president's thinking about this framework and what's at stake for him and Democrats.
Yeah, the president said this was an inflection point, in his words, for his presidency. And he said what was at stake here, not just the fate of his term in office, but whether Democrats can keep control of the House and Senate for the midterms. And we should take him at his word. This is something that his entire time in office has been building towards. This is the heart of his agenda. Obviously, he had the win with the COVID relief bill back in March, but this is it. It's a bipartisan infrastructure deal, which was passed the Senate, but still needs approval in the House. And now, of course, this larger reconciliation package. But there are deep divides within the party, Amish. I mean, and I think that is where we are right now. More than anything, it's the progressives and the couple of moderate or, frankly, conservative senators, Manchin and Sinema, don't trust each other. And yesterday we heard from so many progressives in the House saying, wait, we want a full-throated endorsement from Senators Manchin and Sinema about the framework on this deal, and they didn't get that. And they therefore refused to go for this vote. So the president was left then heading to Europe empty-handed. And now White House aides have told me, and I'm sure you're talking to your sources as well, saying they do believe this will still happen. It might be a few more weeks. It might even be a month or two. They think it'll happen. But they've blown past two critical deadlines. One, the president now is in Europe after meeting the Pope today. He had a few meetings on the sidelines of the G20. He's got that summit and then on to Scotland for this major climate change gathering. He's going to go there without any sort of new legislation to combat carbon emissions and climate change. And then secondly, Democrats are keenly watching the Virginia governor's race next week. Terry McAuliffe pleading with them, pass this infrastructure bill, give me something to run on. That didn't happen. And Democrats are worried about the signal that could send before the midterms next year.
Well, Jonathan, maybe you were in our writing meetings because you literally just walked through the rest of the show and the rundown. So thank you so much for really, I think, summing up what this entire show is about. Now, Dan, while Jonathan has told us sort of a lot of what we need to know, the thing that I've been thinking about is the context of this bill. Yes, it's not what progressives wanted. It's not everything that Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema wanted. But the president is saying that this is historic. It's transformational. I wonder if you can put into context how this bill stacks up when you look at all the other bills that we've seen in history.
Yeah, I mean, it is important to remember that we've focused so much on what has been taken out and how much this has, shrunk over the period of months in which they've been negotiating. But even at $1.75 trillion, along with, roughly $1 trillion for infrastructure and the $1.9 trillion rescue package, the stimulus package, this adds up to almost $5 trillion of domestic spending that the president is pushing, and it seems, based on what you all are hearing, what we're all hearing, this will eventually get done. This is a reaffirmation of the Democrats' values and principles. It is a reaffirmation of their belief that government can work on behalf of people. So in that sense, it is historic. What's interesting about this is that he is trying to do this with the slimmest majorities of any transformational president, whether it was FDR or Lyndon Johnson. So this is the challenge he's got. But historically, this is a very big deal. At the same time, the risks are enormous because of these very slim majorities. And that was what he was trying to get across to people yesterday, that everything is on the line for this party right now.